So again, today is the 10th of September, and we're going to be finishing up this conference registration program that we had been working on. So the first thing I'm going to do is just copy all my comments. So I want you to come in and create another file, or another class. So under our source right here, under your package, please right mouse click, go to new, go to class, and we're going to call this second class workshop panel. All right. And the first thing I'm doing is I just copied in all my comments that I had from before. So, all right. Everybody there? Anybody need a minute or so? I just want to make sure that we're all... Now this particular example, all it's going to, or this file, all it's going to need is the awt.star, so I'm just going to import it directly. So I'm going to import java.awt.star. Whoops. All right, so now I've got that in there. All right. And those are the individual seminars that are going to be given at this conference. So there's one on e-commerce, one on web development, one on Java, and one on security. They all have their own price associated with them. For the e-commerce and for the web, they're $295 each, and for the Java and the security, they're $395 each. All right. What we want to do is we want to create the equivalent of a list box. Everybody remember what a list box looks like? So if this is our screen, we just want a box in it someplace. And in that box, we want it to say e-commerce, etc., all that stuff. All right? The way that you set up a list box, hard coding it like we've been doing, is as follows. Not sure how that go. Okay, I'll leave that. Guess I'm also going to need at least one JList. All right, I need that too, so. Give you a second to put all that stuff in. Bless you. And again. You could just hold on a second. I want to check something out with the master here. I guess I do need that too. Okay. We're also going to, I believe, at the beginning need to import the whole Java x.swing.star. Hopefully that's gonna, it still didn't remove that. I'm trying to figure out why that's an error, but I don't know, and I don't know why that's an error. I have to fix those, but. So that's the whole constructor. We only have one more method and then we're done with this one. And that's getting the workshop cost. So remember, you can sign up for 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of the workshops. All right? You sign up for one of the ones that's $295, that's your whole cost. Both of them at $295, it's $590, etc. So we're going to have to write that particular method right now. And that'll be down here. And that will be, we're going to call that get workshop cost method. Right there. Oh, I know what it is. Up at the top here, if you go back to the first line of the program, where we've got public class workshop panel, we have to extend JPanel. Right there. Please add that right at the top, right after your import statements. I think, hopefully now, all those errors went away. Well, one of them did. If you'd look up, everybody look up front here for a minute, I think at least. All right, if we import javax.swing.star, that takes everything that's right underneath javax.swing and it makes it available to our program. Does that make sense? In other words, I don't think we're going to need any of these three now. You can leave them in there because it sure doesn't hurt anything. But I'm going to try to do a Control X just to remove them, save, and I want to see if I get any errors now. And it doesn't look like I did. All that yellow is all just stuff that we've created that we haven't basically been using yet. And we're going to use it, so all that yellow stuff that you see there is going to go away. But if you look over here, nothing's red, which means I have no errors. So you can put those import statements in individually, or you can do a java.awt.star. I'm sorry, a javax.swing.star. So you can do it either way. All right. There's all sorts of disagreements. Some people think you should only include the ones you want because this introduces bloat into your code because it brings in a bunch of stuff that you might not necessarily be using. And other people say, yeah, but if you've got 5, 6, or 10 of these, pretty soon you got 10 or 20 and you're including almost everything, so you really should do it like that anyway. All right. So there's not a lot of universal agreement on that. Of course, getting a bunch of programmers into a room and having them agree on anything typically isn't that easy of a concept to begin with. All right, so I'm hoping that everybody is pretty much caught up. So I'm going to hit enter a few times here so I can move this up. And we're going to create the get workshop cost method now. You'll notice, too, a couple things. We talked about these. We talked about these last semester, so you may or may not remember them. But a couple things, just so you know. First of all, unlike a language like ASP.NET, Java does not have a decimal data type. It has floats and it has doubles. That's it, as far as data types with numbers. Also, remember that almost always most programmers use the double data type, because if you don't, then every time you go in and you initialize something, you've got to put an F on the end, which is just kind of a pain in the butt and makes for ugly looking code. So most people say, you know what, I'm just going to make it a double. All right. I don't know why it does this, and it puts that underline through that. At least it did it on mine. I'm not sure. It says add suppress warnings. Okay, fine, I'll add that. That doesn't like that. That didn't really do diddly, did it?
That doesn't mean deprecated, does it?
Well, it says add suppress warnings deprecated to selections, which probably means there's a better way of doing it. All right, but it still takes it and it still works, because mine looks like that too,
Mine too.
and it looks ugly when you print it out. So. Now, we're going to put some code in here, but everybody look, if you would, please. What is that doing, that thing in the blue? In English, what is that checking for?
If there's something there.
It's checking to see if you selected anything from the list box. If you haven't selected anything, what's the use in trying to figure out your total cost? There isn't any, because you registered, maybe you're going to the dinner, but you're not going to any of the seminars. Does that make sense? Which would mean that you're paying, if you're a student, $525 to go to a dinner. All right? Or even worse, $925 if you're a non-student. But it is possible, all right, that you haven't selected anything. So that's what we're accounting for right here. Oops, I'm sorry. Hold it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to step through. Remember, it's not a big list box. All right, right now, again, all it has in there is that intro to e-commerce, Web Future or whatever it is. All right, it's got the Java one and the network security. So that's all that's in there. So in here, we're going to be stepping through those four selections. Selection 0, Selection 1, Selection 2, and Selection 3. Because 0, 1, 2, 3, or all four can be selected. So as we go through there, we're going to check that array element to see whether or not it's been selected. And if it's been selected, we want to take its cost and add it to our total. All right? So again, that's element 0. And if it's selected, we want to add $295. Same thing with that one, but it's element 1. And it's also $295. This is element 2. And this is element 3. And these are both $395. And these are both $295. So you can do the math yourselves and figure out all the permutations to see whether or not what you'd be putting in here be correct or not. So it's either just $295 or just $395 or all the way up to adding all four of them. All right, so now we put the if in. It's a little bit ugly, but what am I going to say? It is what it is. Move this down just a bit. Make sure at the end you put in this, the return total, and that's it. That's it for this one. Oh, it doesn't like there.
That would just be else.
No, it's not giving me the error because of that. You don't want to say else because what if they chose nothing? So, but there's something here it doesn't like, so I'm trying to. You can see how these are brownish in color here, and that one's black. So there's something about this line that it doesn't like. I'm just going to try to copy it in, type it in again. So.
Oh. No, semicolon.
Oh, that's it. No semicolon here. That would make sense. I don't know if that's what you meant or not, probably, but. Ta-da. Yeah, I just learned that you shouldn't put at the end of an else if, you shouldn't put a semicolon on the end of it. So I guess I'm trainable. All right. So now, if you remember, what we did last time was we created this. We had the thing here that said, basically, what was it? We had a checkbox here that said you want to go to the dinner. And we had a thing up here that said registration or something. And it had here student and non-student, or whatever it was, professional, whatever. That's what we did last time, okay? And this time we added this, and again, I think there was a box around that, no box here, but it was something like that, where we've got, again, intro to e-commerce, future of the web, advanced Java programming, and network security. Does that make sense? That's what we've got done so far. All right, so we've created the two individual panels, but now we've got to create another program and place those panels into our regular program. All right, has everybody got this? Again, if you've got any syntax errors or whatever, you should have some time to work on it, because if we get as much done as we can right now, then take a break, and then the rest of the period will just be a lab. All right? Again, we're going to go back and rebuild this then on Tuesday of next week, but we're going to build a different kind of project that's going to be a Gui project for the first time in here. All right? So I'm going to do another save. Probably a good idea. And I'm going to come back in here, do a file, new, and I want to create another class. All right, this is the last class I'm creating, and I'm going to call it, the first two were panels, so this one is just going to be called Conference Registration. And this one will have a main, so I'll leave that up there for a second. So Conference Registration for the name, and you can check or tick the box that says public static void main. Again, if you don't want to do that, then you're going to have to add the main yourselves. This is longer than the other one that we just did, so you've been warned. All right, so there's that one. Again, I like to put comments at the top of my program. So I'm grabbing my comments that I've been using. And I'm going to put them at the top here. Then I'm going to immediately take that and minimize it, so that's good. There's our main. don't need that line, so I'm just going to get rid of it. Our main, when we get there, we're going to do that last. Hopefully you'll be impressed by the fact that there's like about one line of code in it. All it's going to do is it's going to create an object for us, and that's it. All right, so as always, there are no constants here, so we're going to create the program variables. All right? Now, this is going to look a little bit different, just so you know. What we're going to do in here is we're going to be creating in here some variables that are going to be of type registration panel and of type conference panel. We've already done that work, and we just want to drop that stuff onto the big holder that's going to hold everything. All right? So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to have a banner at the top, and it's just going to basically have, conference registration system or whatever. All right, somebody tell me. This one I can fix real easy. I'm just going to click and import that. But notice, so that fixes that one. Why am I getting this one? It says import JPanel, but what's the problem I have right now?
You have to extend the class to it.
Extends JFrame. All right. We still have to come in here and import that JPanel. So you need these two lines right here in the blue, and you need to add this in the blue. You need to extend JFrame when you're declaring your class, and you need to import those two.
You need to import frame too, don't you?
Probably. And frame. Thank you. So again, looking at the screen right now, we're going to have something up here that says conference registration or something like that. That thing right there, that thing. All right? That's going to be that banner. All of this stuff that you see some other color. All of this stuff, so that's banner. The stuff that's here, that's outlined in purple, that stuff is going to be, that'll be the registration panel. This over here that we just did, that'll be the workshop panel. And then when we get all done, we'll add a button here that says calculate. And we'll add another button down here that says exit. And those are those two buttons. All right? Does all that make sense? So, as always, the first thing we're going to put in here is our constructor. And did you notice when I did this, if you take a look right here, when I did this, all right, it came out, when I did it, it came back and it said param args. You see that? And it didn't do that before. It did that because I added the main. And it's thinking, well, you might want to be putting the information in for main, and that's why it's in there. All right, I don't want to put that in there, so I'm just going to remove that line. And I guess I have to also add the import the JButton class. So here's your 4 input statements. Import javax.swing.jbutton, import javax.swing.jframe, import javax.swing.jlabel, or import javax.swing.jpanel. Again, if you don't want to do all that work, we could have just imported javax.swing.star. All right, that would have worked as well. All right, so let's start with a constructor here. All right, it's about 19 minutes to. If somebody can tell me when it gets to be 10:02, we'll take our break then. So we'll get as far as we can between now and then we'll take our break. So this banner that we just put in here, this conference registration system, we're going to create it on the fly. So we're going to just throw a panel out there right now. All right, the one that we had before, that banner panel, we're going to set it equal to a new J panel. Argument 1 to layout manager. Button dot set layout. New flow layout. Flow layout.
Import the flow layout.
I don't believe that's what that's not what that error is. It might be what this one is.
Yeah, it'll fix it.
All right, thank you. So there's another import statement. java.awt.flowlayout. All right. Now, just so you're aware of this, and you're going to see this in more depth when we go into the building the stuff next week using the GUI tools. But in English, what this says is, a flow layout says go from right to left. So if this is my screen right here, it says put as much stuff into this row as you can. When you run out of room going from left to right, start a new row. When you fill that up, start a new row. Does that make sense? Well, the only thing we're putting here is conference registration system, which it would look nice if it was centered. So that's what we're doing. All right. A couple more things, and these are explained in the chapter, but I'm going to say them to you also.
Sans serif.
That's my new font. You have a problem with sans serif? I don't. All right. Now, if you'd all stop for just a second and look up here, these are both discussed in the chapter, but what's discussed in chapter, it's either 11 or 12, I don't remember. Among other things, they talk about the different kinds of layout managers. You've already seen a grid layout, if you remember that. That's got rows and columns. And each column has to be the same size. So it's all based on the biggest value you put into any column. All right? Then you've got flow layout that I just mentioned to you that goes from right to left. All right? There's a couple layouts that are just kind of quirky. They're called grid layout and grid bag layout. Or I'm sorry, grid bag layout and card layout. They're a little weird. They're not used that often. You could buy layouts. All right, you can create your own layouts. What's really nice about what we'll do next week is they also have a nice thing that's called no layout. What's nice about that is it means that when you start putting your GUIs, your stuff in there, you can throw the GUI stuff anywhere you want. If you don't like it, it's just the same way that we do it in Visual Studio. Just move it to where you want it to go. All right. This, as you guess, sets a brand new font for you. It's an 18-point bold sans serif font. You don't like that, you could make it Arial or whatever. Sans serif is something that's typically it's included on every computer and always has been created on every computer. So just making it simple like that. But they do mention in chapter 11, they talk a lot about the different layout types. And it's either 11 or 12, they talk about both how to create your own fonts. And we haven't seen it, but they also talk in there about how to create and play with colors. Java comes with 13 built-in colors. If you don't like using the built-in colors, like color.cyan or whatever, color.black, color.red, you can use the red, green, blue stuff, but it's a little bit more work to do that. Most of the time, most people are happy with some different variations of the 13 basic colors. That's all mentioned in the book. All right, and again, just so you know, I mean, I spent the time. If you say, well, you know, I didn't know any of this stuff, well, first, then maybe you should read the chapter. Chapters 11 and 12. And I did do lectures on both of them. I did those outside of here. So that I did lectures on the PowerPoints that came with the book. So that stuff's out there on the system already. Do you have questions, Zane?
Yeah. What dictates the size of the main panel?
The question was, what dictates the size of the main panel?
Yeah.
All right. In here, at least, it's going to be basically predicated on what we throw in there, and it'll kind of size itself. In the next chapter that we go into in the book, after we get done with this stuff, we go into applets, and with applets, you set the size. All right, so you tell it how big, height and width. All right, but on here, I think it basically is dictated by what you throw in there.
I think you can set your own size.
You can in here too. Yeah, in fact, when we run this, it's going to be small. It's going to be dictated on that, but you could go in there, and most of the time when you set heights and you set widths, most of the time you do it as constants. All right, and then you use them. The good thing about doing it the way that we're going to do it is it'll look very uniform. And if you wanted to, it would take some work, but you could literally space it out. So ours is literally going to be about kind of like this big, if you can imagine our screen. Not this big, but like this big. All right, because we're not using any extra room that we don't need. So you could do that and add things. We just didn't do it here. All right, now we got to get ready for our other two panels. So we want to create a registration panel. And we also want to create a workshop panel. And while we're at it, we'll also create a button panel. Why doesn't it like that? because that's a big W. All right.
It's also a 10-2.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to put these 4 lines in, take your break. I'm going to put in these 4 lines, then I'm going to stop taping so I can start producing this right away. All right, and then I'll leave this up here, but there's just 4 lines, and it's basically adding the panels to the content frame. And we're going to use one of the content frames again that has a north, a south, a west, and an east in it, and a center. All right, and we're not even going to use the center. We're just going to use the north, the south, the east, and the west. So I'm going to put that in there, and please take a break. All right, I'll come right back to this, but again, I'm going to stop for a second so I can stop taping.